Okay, I'm going to ponder on that for just a second. If you're going through a trial or tribulation, it's because of the desires of your heart. And the desires of our heart need to be purified. And so our focus and our attention, this is really contrary to what we normally read, because in this scripture it said, be afflicted and then mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning. Like if you're jolly and happy and laughter, let that be turned to mourning, or let your joy be turned to heaviness. Man, that's that's good. Because if you take seriously the call of God and you take seriously the agenda of the Lord, then you need to be humble and walk in humility. And sometimes you have to lay down your own thought process and your own desires and your own will, like, like even if what you're doing is not sin, but God's told you to change your agenda, then you have to change your agenda. And sometimes changing that agenda, can make you sad. But when you change the agenda and lay down your will and pick up God's will and submit and be humble and walk in the humility of God and be pliable and teachable during that season and be willing to let go, man, sometimes we have a tendency to hold on to something like a snapping turtle, a snapping turtle will grab a hold of something and bite into it, and it won't let go. And we get that way in faith. We get that, we get a hold of something and we just write it down, man, write it all the way to the ground, like somebody trying to break a wild bronc, or a bull rider in a rodeo. We just, tough as boots or tough as an old nail. I don't know how you say it, but sometimes God's wanting us to let go. Sometimes you got to get off the bronc and you got to get off the bull. You can't stay on the thing forever. And sometimes God's, he's requiring us to take a step back because of the season that we're in. Sometimes we have to change our armor. When you're fishing for souls, you can't fish the same way all the time. Different people require different types of bait. And in order for us to be humble and walk in humility and pliable into the Lord, sometimes we have to swallow our pride, is the word I'm going to use. But things are not always full of laughter, and things are, not always full of joy. I mean, God turns those things for His glory for us. But, I'll use it this way. If you're going to work out and lose weight and get in shape, it's, you might not laugh while you're doing it, or you might, depending on what you're doing, because you might look ridiculous. But, it takes grit and steadfastness and the ability to persevere and endure. And, in that process, it's a tough process. And sometimes it's like walking on water, because maybe you understand one way of life, but God's getting ready to teach you a new way of life. And, He wants you to let go of some old habits and some old things that worked for you in the past. May have been fine for that season, but they may not work at all in the new season of where you're getting ready to go. And so in that, be willing. I'm gonna look at these words one more time, because I think it was verse 10. Be afflicted, be willing to be afflicted. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy turned to heaviness. It just seems so contrary to what we normally want to experience in our journey. But it's in those hours, and in that midnight hour, in that time, a runner, to win a race, has to train, and it's hard. It's hard physically, spiritually, emotionally. It takes discipline. And it takes letting go of everything that you know and you understand to be set forth for the goal that's set ahead. And so let's endure this race, not according to the old skills that we used to have, but according to the new skills that we're going to develop for the Father's glory.